Welcome to the AlignUs Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nikhil Sharma, and I'm so grateful to have you guys here with us today. Over the past 2 years, I've made the transition from being a physician and working in the hospital to opening up and creating mission-led businesses that were focused on charity, helping people heal, and living in alignment. And today's topic, we are going to be talking about how we hustle to overcompensate for our sense of unworthiness. Joining me today is my partner, my co-founder of AlignUs and the Align Foundation and a growth mindset expert, Kevin Drummond. Welcome to the show.
How's everyone
Kevin.
doing?
Brother?
Happy to be here. Feeling good, feeling great, ready to jump into this conversation. Always been a hustler, but it's time to realize our innate abilities and hustle less, do less. Let's just do less.
I like that. And joining us and coming back to the AlignUs Podcast is the mind alchemist, David Titeu, who helps work with high performers and purpose-driven individuals. Welcome, David, to the show, man. It's been a long time, but glad you're back with us and excited about this topic today.
I'm super grateful to be here with you guys. Love your work and super keen to dive into this conversation.
Yeah, it's something I think all of us have been through in our life. I feel like, we were kind of raised in a way to feel like the more we do, the more validation we will receive, the more worthy we will become. But, over time, we realize that the more and more we do, the more and more we get out of alignment and the more burnout we end up suffering from. And it's something I know I personally have dealt with in my life. And I think each one of us can speak the same. And the issue really became for me was, how do I even recognize that I am in this pattern of hustling to overcompensate my worthiness? David, so I'll start with you. What are some patterns in real life that people can look at that they can start identifying to show themselves that, hey, I'm out of alignment and I'm chasing something and try to prove my worth?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. What comes to mind immediately is just the fact that success never feels safe enough to enjoy. The high achiever who hits their goals, makes more money, or achieves an outcome or grows their impact, yet still feels like it's not enough and they can't stop and smell the roses. And they're lying awake at night, struggling to feel a sense of completeness. That's a really glaringly obvious sign that someone is not operating in alignment. It's also someone who can't rest without guilt. They might see rest as like a luxury. I'll rest when I've earned it, as opposed to acknowledging the importance of rest as an inherent thing that's vital to our healthy existence on planet Earth and in our bodies as well. It also can look like someone that's just a yes man. Great movie with Jim Carrey, definitely worth a watch.
Love that movie.
But yeah, someone who just says yes to everything, constantly ties their value and self-worth to their output. On social media or on the outside, they may seem really confident and really, I guess like they're killing it or like they're crushing it. But internally, they're really struggling. They're really afraid of losing everything or being found out or being forgotten. And it's like you pointed out before, Nick, it's usually a sign that they're hustling, not from alignment, but from a fear or an old core wound.
Yeah, several of those things you said just now really struck a chord with me, especially people pleasing.
I was like, are you looking at like my personal profile or something?
Exactly.
Like, what?
Do you know my whole history, like leading up to a couple of years ago? Yeah. Because that's exactly the things that I was suffering from. And I didn't understand that it was a sense of worthiness that I was trying to accomplish. But yes, and I feel like, especially when you talked about people pleasing and saying yes, that's something that had been ingrained to me when I was a baby or a young little kid. I come from a South Asian household, and I think the climate in the household was all about making sure everyone is happy and doing well all the time. And even if that meant you sacrificing your own happiness, never say no. So when you start growing up in that kind of environment, that resonates through my own system. And so as I was growing up, I had trouble saying no to anybody to do anything. I mean, I was so kind and nice that I even co-signed on a average friend of mine's car note in college when I was 18 years old or 19 years old. Like, I had difficulty saying no. And it was to the point where I would even be co-signing things. So that clearly was a bad idea at that time, but it was my sense of wanting to get validated and feel like I belonged or I was good enough, or, you know, this guy was really cool, man, right? Like, I think especially when we're young, we really want to feel like we're cool. So feeling cool is like doing things to other people or for other people, even if that meant stretching me too thin. And, you know, I'm just like, it took me a long time to get out of that, like doing things for others and saying yes to others. It is the way to go, and it truly is a way to burn out.
Definitely, it definitely is.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you know,
thanks for sharing, Nick. I mean, growing up in that household sounds exhausting. It's constantly never be saying no.
but the other thing about another thing about saying yes all the time is that you lose a sense of authenticity, right? Because you're constantly people shifting, people shaping, to conform to other people's desires and needs and wants. And you begin disconnecting from who you truly are. And it took me, again, a long time to recognize and realize that when we are constantly saying yes, we're constantly saying no to ourselves. And when we're saying no to ourselves, we're being more disconnected and we feel resentful, we feel guilt, we feel anger. And you get to a place where you're in just so much pain. You're in constant fight or flight, right? And when you're in constant fight or flight, you are in this fear mongering mindset where your adrenaline's kicking up, your cortisol levels are high, you are feeling like you can't sleep, your weakened immune system kicks in, you aren't able to really think clearly. You're in this fog, and this pattern just continues because you can't figure out a way to get out of that. And you're just disconnected from who you are. So, David or Kevin, how has hustle culture kind of showed up in your life and when you were growing up? And what did you do to kind of get past that or learn those lessons you needed to learn?
Well, as you just said, like up until a couple of days, you know, you were still dealing with some of those things. And I think that's everyone. Like, this life isn't an end goal. Like, this life is a journey of growth and recognition and awareness. And I think we use the word validation because it's a word that we're very familiar with. But for a lot of people, what does that mean? So validation is feeling like you're worthy, feeling like you're good enough. And that was actually why for a long time I had a hard time saying no, because I associated saying yes as being a good friend or being a good husband or being a good partner or, you know, being a good client. Like, oh yeah, I have no problem with getting that done. Not thinking about what other commitments and my life work balance that exist. So I think it's important for us to realize, like you said earlier, Nick, that our worthiness is just us being here. Like, we're a one of one. There is no one like us in this world, and there is no one like us that have the unique abilities that we have. And a lot of times, because we're stuck in this world of people pleasing and doing what we think we should be doing for others, we don't take the time to peel back the layers and discover ourselves, discover our unique ability, discover our likes, discover our wants. Even if outside of hustle culture, when you're giving yourself to a 9-to-5 job, you're constantly going to work, you're carrying out these expectations, you're getting off of work, you're worn out. And then if you're in a relationship, if you're married, then you're also giving up your time and your energy after work. So you're really left with very little time to do the self-discovery, to peel back the layers and to find out what it is that sets you apart from everyone else in this world. Because once you take the time to do that, that's when it becomes a lot easier to be able to say no, because you see your greatness. You see that there is no, I would say, contrast between you and the energy and creator that created you. And once you realize that and realize everything's connected and you're just an extension of that, it opens an entirely new world to you. And you're no longer feeling as if you have to say yes, because you see yourself as valuable. You see yourself as great. But that, like I said, it's a life journey, and I'm still peeling back the layers. And I catch myself in that validation process, like, oh, let me say yes because I don't want to let this person down. And, I don't want to be seen as, not a good person because I'm not doing as they would like me to do. So that's how I've seen it showing up in my life. And what I've been able to do is just take a deep breath at times. And when we're in that hustle culture that you referred to, one symptom I'd say for me is I'm holding my breath. And I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I realized, like, okay, whether I feel a headache coming or my heart's like racing, and I'm like, you know what? I just need to breathe. And then when I realized how much relief that brought, that's when I was like, wait a second, why does this feel so good? I think it's because I was holding my breath, and the holding my breath comes from the hustling, from that fight or flight. Like, I need to get it done immediately. And your body gets used to not expanding. And think about it. If your lungs aren't expanding, then how are you as a person expanding?
Yeah, man, you dropped some real gems there, man.
Yeah, spitting facts there, Kevin. I really love you saying that important remembering of our inherent worthiness just by being here. And it's often forgotten. But when you think about it, if you look at like a newborn baby, you don't look at it and say it's unworthy. If you've ever babysat for someone, if you have a son or a daughter, an infant, you don't just say that they're unworthy. So at what point do they start thinking that they're unworthy? Right. And so, absolute gems, as Nick said, being able to kind of peel back the layers and reveal the lies that you've told yourself and the conditioning and the identity that's been built up over time from this constant, relentless hustle is very liberating. It's really hard. It can be quite painful, but it's very liberating because like you start to come back to a place of wholeness and love and peace. And you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You know that you're inherently valuable, and that's a really, really powerful place to operate from.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just picturing myself as a young kid or as a child, and at that point, we were very free, we're full of love, and we felt very worthy to be where we're at that moment. But then over time, whether it was your parents, whether it was society, there became to have whispers in your ear and this negative talk about what you can and cannot accomplish. And if you try to say that you were going to become an actor, a baseball player, a football player, many times, at least my household, that was shot down immediately. And you were then told that the best path for you is to become a doctor. And if you don't become a doctor, well, then you aren't considered successful. You're not worthy of our love or society's love or being accepted by all those around you, because acceptance in society means that you have a top-notch job, you have a really amazing partner that looks good. Like, it's got to be that they look good, and they come from an incredible family as well that has an insane amount of money. You have multiple amounts of cars that are Ferraris, Lambos. You have this huge house, right? All these goals and expectations were either built up through conscious projection by family members or subconscious interjection that comes from watching TV, movies, conversations that start occurring all around us. And then when we don't start hitting these milestones, we feel like we have to work even harder, right? We have to push ourselves to get to a certain level of income. I know when I was working in the hospital, I wasn't making a certain type of money. And in order for me to make that kind of money, I needed to work even more. Like I picked up extra shifts in the ER or on hospital call, and I would hardly ever be off. Instead of taking that time to reflect about, maybe I need to make a career change, or maybe I need to maybe go into like administration or do something else where I wouldn't be having to work as hard, but I would still be making meaningful impact, and I would be having more of an income by not working harder. I kept myself in this distracted sense of being. And I feel like that distracted sense of being became like a numbness to disguise the pain that I was going through. Because overworking ourselves itself becomes an addiction, because we don't want to spend time alone doing nothing. Because what happens when we do nothing? Thoughts start popping into our head, right? And some of those thoughts aren't really kind thoughts. And they're like thoughts of things that you wish you were doing, or you feel like you're going down the wrong direction. And then you don't want to be in those thoughts. Your nervous system hates negative thoughts. And we're not taught the skills of reframe or how to regulate ourselves. We are taught to hustle, 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 work harder, get yourself back out there, man up, and go after what society has deemed you to go after and to be. And that's become this extremely successful, affluent physician that has it all.
Yeah. And you said it earlier, comparison is the thief of joy. And whether you're comparing yourself to what other physicians at the time were making, or comparing yourself to this ideal individual that you're supposed to be with the perfect wife and the perfect life and all this wealth and all these cars, instead of just sitting with yourself, like you said, and thinking about all the things that you have to be grateful for. Like being able to ground yourself in gratitude on a daily basis is a great way not to compare yourself to others, because we compare ourselves to others based on what they allow us to see. It's all an illusion, especially with social media. They're taking moments of their life and they're expressing it as their entire life. And people have to realize that. Like, we're all showing these highlights, these moments, right, of our life. We're not showing our life. It's an illusion. And when we compare ourselves to that, you're literally draining and sucking the energy from your life and sucking the enjoyment from it as well, because you're so stuck in comparing yourself to, honestly, illusions. Like, you're literally comparing yourself to illusions that do not exist, instead of grounding yourself in gratitude for what does exist, which is you.
Damn, that's so poetic and so true. Yeah, it's so true though. And I think a lot of us need that reminder, because when you're in that sort of mindless scrolling state of mind, you're not thinking of yourself and, you know, your inherent worth. You're in a mode of fear and comparison and not good enoughness, which is what I call it. And so understanding that, you know, what you're noticing online is just like a fabrication, it's a distortion, it's an illusion, is really, really important. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Kevin. I think that's going to be a real gem for listeners to remember.
Yeah, I think social media has certainly caused our sense of worthiness to go down, because we, like you said, Kevin, we're constantly comparing. And we actually did a study at one of the middle schools here in New Orleans. And what we found out was that 67% of the young children who are in middle school, they are already comparing themselves to other individuals. And we're talking about sixth graders. And, you know, when you start comparing yourself at the age of 10, 11, 12 years old, then you're going to start developing, emotions like envy, jealousy, right? And when you start having envy and jealousy, you're going to start in that fight or flight mode, that how am I going to get my life to be like theirs? Because it looks perfect. I see it online. They have this great house. They have this nice car. They have this beautiful wife or husband. I don't have that. And I'm jealous and I'm envious, and I need to start getting that. And when people and our youth don't have those tools to recognize that everyone has a different life, or what we're seeing online isn't always real, it can breed this inner sense of false desire or rage and anger, and do things that are misaligned with our own path. And our own path is something that we haven't developed the skills to be able to figure out what that is for ourselves, because we've been told that to us our entire life, what we can and what we cannot be. And this journey is about reconnecting to ourselves and our self-worth, because nothing can be accomplished in this life if you don't feel like you're worthy enough to be in that position to get all those things that are truly meant for us. Because we oftentimes feel guilty or shameful of a lot of things that have happened to us in our life, and a lot of trauma that we have inflicted on others because we've been hurt. So when we have inflicted trauma on others, that makes me feel that I'm not worthy enough to have an incredible wife, or I'm not worthy enough to be in the position that I'm at today because I didn't necessarily go to school with it. And I'm just speaking as a normal individual, the thoughts that go through their head of worthiness, because a lot of it stems from us living in the past and not truly feeling like we deserve to have good things in life. So, David, what do you see with your kind of patients that come into you? Do you see this mindset, and what can people do to help themselves get out of that mindset of what was done in the past, leave in the past, but we are worthy to get what we would like to get, and we don't have to overcompensate by people pleasing or hustling or getting out of our path, but we can just be ourselves?
Man, thank you so much for sharing that, Nick, and for your vulnerability, brother. That's I think a lot of us can resonate with that. Certainly I can. You know, the guilt and the shame that comes from something bad that happened, or something that we did or didn't do, it can be really crippling and can completely damage self-worth. And it did for me, because I for a long time felt like I had to achieve at school and at university to kind of win my parents over. And that led to a very vicious cycle of, you know, overachievement and perfectionism, so much so until it spiraled into substance abuse and a really nasty brush with the law, which made me go deep into a pit of self-loathing. And then to try and get out of that pit, I tried to be the good guy. I tried to build, you know, this company. I tried to save people. I tried to help people. And yes, you know, we made a fantastic impact through a business in the mental health space, but I was doing it from a place of lack, and I was doing it from a place of feeling not good enough. And like I had to prove something to the world. And I was, you know, very out of alignment, you know, since we're on the AlignUs podcast. So this is super common. You know, this is super, super common. Yeah, everyone I speak to, everyone I kind of serve experiences something similar. And childhood conditioning is a massive factor, as it was for me and the unique. Between ages of 0 to 7, we're like sponges. We just absorb the beliefs, the fears, the family patterns straight into our subconscious. And then if, like me, if love was conditional on getting an A+, or, you know, winning the race, or, you know, getting into a good college or university, we internalize that, right? And then we grow up thinking that if I do more, then I'll be enough. You know, I'll finally feel loved. I'll finally feel worthy. And so when I'm working with clients, a big part of that, and we've spoken a little bit about it already, is just bringing awareness to that pattern, to reveal it, whether it's through inner child work, parts work, shadow work, journaling. There are a variety of different techniques that I use depending on the client needs to bring their awareness to that pattern. And then start by regulating their nervous system. Something you said before, Nick, super important. If we're having negative thoughts, right, it completely drives our nervous system into fight or flight, because thoughts are just electrical conductivity that get transmitted through the nervous system. So if you're thinking a bad thought, a negative thought, you're going to lock down. You're going to go into self-preservation, self-protection, that egoic, fear-based state. And so the regulation step is really important to help my clients understand that it's okay to rest. You can feel safe resting. You can feel safe being seen. You can feel safe letting go, which, for many that haven't done that for years, possibly even decades. And then the third step is a process of rewiring the subconscious using techniques like EFT tapping, subconscious scripting, daily repetition through emotion. Because in the same way, growing up, if you were exposed to certain ideas from parents or loved ones that are, one that comes to mind for me is like, I got an A, and then, dad would say, but it's not an A plus. And, nothing but love and respect and, kindness towards my dad, because I know that he had my best intentions and interests at heart. But to, a young impressionable child, that can really start developing these feelings of not feeling good enough. So the more that you experience that, the deeper the wound becomes. So to kind of really rewire the subconscious, you still need that daily repetition with emotion to start building a new pattern, a more empowering, a positive, uplifting pattern that's rooted in emotion, not logic, that really, as Kev was saying before, kind of helps us remember that we are inherently worthy just by being here, just by existing, just by being instead of constantly doing and hustling as we've been conditioned.
Yeah, really well said there, David, man. Humans are actually pretty simple beings. All we want is love, right? Which is like the most powerful emotion in the world. We do everything in our entire life for love. I realize that. And we try to feel like we fit in, but the problem is that we don't know how to love ourselves. That's the true definition of love, is we don't understand how to actually love ourselves. No one has taught us that. We've been constantly taught how to love others. But the one thing that I would say in order for us to rewire our brain is to first focus on yourself and loving yourself and practicing that on a daily basis. And what does that look like for you? Whether that's giving yourself affirmations, whether that's, spending time to yourself, walking in nature, just setting boundaries. All of these are acts of self-love, and it's putting energy back into you. The next thing is, for me, is what is your why? Are you doing things from a point of fear, or are you doing things from a point of love? It's important for you to recognize that, and you can look around in each one of your situations and see, is this something that's making me comfortable, or is this something that is truly exciting and I'm taking some inspired steps to do that? And, the next thing I would recommend is, I think David touched on it really well, is, rewire yourself in stillness. Worthiness does not come from action, but it does come from remembering who you were. And in order to reconnect and remember who you were, you need to do practices like breath work, meditation, journaling. I spent the past 2 years focusing specifically on those things. And that is what led me to start a company like AlignUs, start companies like Align Foundation, because it's something that's coming from my own soul. It's coming from alignment. And there's a lot of ambition behind it. And I'm working a lot, but it doesn't seem like work. It feels like I'm having the greatest time of my life with my best friends, and we're all working together to create something really inspiring. It's because I've taken the time to reconnect. And the last thing I'd recommend is to take action from a place of joy, and whatever that looks like for you. But just remember, just taking a couple small steps of action from joy is more powerful than taking a giant leap of faith from a place of fear.
Agreed. Say no to others so you can say yes to yourself.
All right. Any final words from everybody? This has just, truly been an incredible conversation, and I hope the viewers out there really understand the importance of feeling worthy, and more importantly, where that lack of worthiness came from our young childhood, from society, from conditioning, but then recognizing those patterns like David had mentioned, and then working on steps to figure out what it is that you feel like you're misaligned from, so that you can reconnect to yourself, because reconnecting to yourself is where you get the worthiness back. It's not by doing, it's by being.
Agreed. I would say my final words are, you are enough. You are enough. Just know that, remember that, like David mentioned earlier, because it's not like you're needing to learn anything new. You just need to remember you are enough.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not what you do as well. You are who you are when you stop the doing.
I love that, man. This is
You
just
are when you stop the doing. That's good. That was real good.
All right, man. Well, look, another incredible conversation. Just so grateful to be here with David and Kevin and everyone out there that was able to join us today on this live. We'll be back again in the next couple of weeks with another live and another great conversation with some incredible people. And remember, it's all about love, community, and alignment. Until next time, peace.